to the chat a file that I'll talk about in a minute, very quickly for you. Okey-dokey. Okay, I'll share my screen. Okay, can you see that? Is that shared or not?
No.
No.
Oh, okay. Let's try
When you're selecting share, oh yeah, there you go.
that one. Yeah, I'm there. I'm there. Excellent. Is that better?
Yep.
Excellent. Okie dokie. Right. So yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about me. I'm Sam Roblett, and I run Zebra Admin, which is a vegan virtual assistant business supporting vegan and eco-conscious businesses. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about getting more done and getting it done now. So my journey with organisation started about 15 years ago. When I was working full time, I was looking after a small child, and I was working part-time as well, along with as a partner in my husband's business. And I decided to complete a degree with the Open University, but I decided not to do this in the 6-year time frame that they suggested, but in a 2.5-year time frame that I placed upon myself. So I remember feeling overwhelmed and having too much to do, and feeling like I was just gonna give up on all of this, and it was too much. But I read a book, and that said that to be productive I needed to get up at 4 a.m. every morning, and I needed to take an ice cold water submersion every day. And I thought, no way, that's no way at all. So I searched into a load of other strategies, and I want to share some of those with you now. And there were ways in which we help businesses to be more organised, and the ways in which we provide a cost-effective service now for people, and we can be the most efficient that we are. So I'm going to share some of those with you. So just to get started, I've popped in the chat productivity bingo. So this is for you to download, and once you finish today's session, you can have a go at the things that I've suggested, and then it'd be really great if you could share in the Facebook group when you get a bingo. So you might get a line across, or you might try and get that full house. So have a go. So it's something for you to do when you've finished the session. So let's start with some regrets. So there was some research done where people nearing the end of their life talked to their nurses, and these were some of the things they regretted: not having spent more time with the people they love, spending too much time working, not traveling enough, wishing that they'd stayed in touch with their friends, and wishing that they'd taken better care of themselves. And something struck me about these things, and it was that none of these are tangible objects. These are all things and emotions. They're not, I wanted to buy a Ferrari, or you know, I wanted that big house. They're all about spending time with people and caring for one another. Oh, so my first question to you is, what would you do with an extra hour today? So if you could put that in the chat. I don't think I can actually see the chat. Oh, I can, yeah. If you could put that in the chat. Mark, I don't know if you can
Yeah.
read any of those out, because I can't actually see the chat.
So I've got take time for me, catch up on my admin so far.
Fabulous.
Go for a walk, spend more time practicing the drums. That's wildlife photography.
Nice. So lots of things there, lots of things that you could do with that extra hour. Fabulous. Okay, so the first thing I tackled was a thing called the pickle jar theory, and I don't know if anyone's ever heard of this, but Stephen Covey, who is the author of the Effective Habits of Highly Effective People, explains the pickle jar theory in terms of your time being finite. So he talks about, we've all got this jar, and everyone's jar is a different size, but we can't change the jar. your jar is what it is. Your time is finite. So those people that say, oh, you can make more time, I don't believe that you can make more time. Your time is what it is. But what I do believe is that you can choose how you spend that time and the best way that you use that time to be effective. So think about how you're filling your time right now. Maybe write down all of your tasks that you're doing for the next week and think about those ones that are the most important. So the aim of the pickle jar theory is to fill your jar most effectively for yourself. So your big tasks are your rocks, your medium-sized tasks are your pebbles, and then the smaller tasks that you do in between, like writing emails and bits like that, are the sand within it. Now, if you fill your jar with lots of sand, you've got to think about how much impact that's actually having. Whereas if you place your big rocks into your jar first, then drop in a few pebbles and fill it with sand, you're going to have a much bigger impact. Okay, so think about how you're filling your jar. Another thing that struck me strongly was Mark Twain, or I think it was Mark Twain, said, eat your frog. And that's not very vegan. So I like to think of it as kiss your frog, which basically every morning you should do your biggest, most scary task. Get it out the way. When you sit down, get that out the way, kiss your frog. And after that, the rest of your day will be much easier. It's a cliche, time is money, but it really is. If you work in your own business, your time is your money. And so it's worth thinking about your tasks that you do during a day in terms of the impact, the financial impact that they have upon you and your business. So think about, what are your £1,000 tasks? What are those tasks that are going to have a big impact? What are those £100 tasks? And what are those £10 tasks? Think about assigning a value to your to-do list and consider, when you sit down to do a task, what financial impact is this having on me and my business? And start with those big monetary tasks first. So question, what £10 task could you delegate today to free up some of your time? I'll give you a couple of minutes just to have to think about that. What £10 task? Happy to pop any of that in the chat, that would be great.
Right, got scanning old photos, social media scheduling, social media updates. Newsletter.
So I'm pretty sure most of you can
Lunch for the family.
I'm pretty sure most of you can think of at least one task today that's a small task that can be handed off to someone else. So for me, when I was going through this journey of needing to develop organisation in my life, it was important to set boundaries, and they weren't just boundaries around what I was doing generally, but boundaries around where I was doing my work. So designating myself a place within the house where I could focus, setting myself working hours, so hours where I would be focusing on specific things, scheduling in my individual tasks, and sometimes it meant saying no, politely saying no and saying no thank you, but sometimes it meant being brave and saying no, just sorry, I just cannot do that right now, or no, but I know someone else who can help you with that. Okay, but setting boundaries is also about building in flexibility. So it's not about setting yourself a schedule and a timetable that has you fixed for every minute of every day. And it's also about having that flexibility in your mind that it's okay if that doesn't get done, you can reschedule it in somewhere else. There's a law called Parkinson's law that I learned when I was doing my degree. And it says that you always fill your time, the same as you would always spend your money. So if you've got an hour of time to do a task, it will take you an hour. If you've set yourself 10 hours to do a task, it will take you 10 hours. The same as when you get that raise, you spend it straight away. And then you think, wow, where did that go? Your time's just exactly the same. So one way to get around this is task batching. So the problem we have with our brains is we can't multitask. It's proven. It's only something like 2.5% of the population that can actually multitask. For the majority of us, multitasking is not something we can actually do. We're not actually doing, when we try to multitask, we're not actually doing both tasks effectively. You're only actually doing one of them a little bit more effectively than the other. It means that your tasks take longer because your brain has to switch focus. And every time it switches focus, it has to develop back into that and get the feel for the task it's doing again. You'll make mistakes if you try to multitask too much. It's more stressful. And it actually damages your memory. So there's an effect called the Zeigarnik effect, which basically talks about how when we start a task, we open a loop in our brain. And once we open those loops, it just keeps on flowing around our brain. And until we close them again, we feel that overwhelm. So the more loops you've got open, the less your brain will focus, the more stressed and overwhelmed you'll feel. So it's really important to just open those loops and try to close as many as you can. So to do this, we batch tasks together. For example, you can use a calendar, paper or software, sticky notes or index cards, or a whiteboard, or software, which I absolutely love. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about Trello that I love later. So batching tasks together means doing tasks of a similar type. So for example, you might set aside an hour in the morning to answer emails and an hour in the afternoon to answer emails, and keep your email switched off for the entire of the rest time. And I know you might be thinking, oh gosh, I need my email to be there so I can answer it straight away. And there might be times where that's the case. But if your email's sitting there in the background and you're doing your work and then all of a sudden it pings, do you ignore it? Or are you tempted to answer that ping notification? So think about your tasks that you're doing. If you're doing a data-based task where you're inputting numbers, it's much better to do that for a period of time before doing an admin or a written task, because your brain is using different aspects of it. So think about how you're blocking your time. But again, remember to stay flexible and don't be tough on yourself if you have to move your tasks around. So sticky notes, for example, I'd put sticky notes, 3 or 4 sticky notes for your day, and then possibly put times on it. Or if you're using sticky notes on a whiteboard, put them on a time scale. And then if you end up taking a phone call that takes too long, just shuffle it along. That's why they're movable. You have to remain flexible in what you're doing. Okay. So get yourself organized. This is one of the very small but really effective things that you can do in order to turn your chaos into calm. Think about those small things that you do every day that take away your time. So how much time do you spend looking for your keys? Do you ever get up in the morning and change your outfit? So put something on and change it into something else? Do you ever spend time locating files on a computer? I know I've put that file somewhere, or even worse, rifling through a load of paperwork. I know I've put it somewhere. So again, having a clear system can really help to just reduce the time. And it might be 5 minutes here or 5 minutes there, but that all adds up. And it's taking those little bits of grains of sand out of your jar that allow you to fill in more of your pebbles. You might want to plan your meals. So think about planning your meals. Think about maybe having yourself a uniform. So if you're working at your desk and you know you've got Zoom calls that day, have yourself a Zoom call uniform. If you know that you're not, have yourself a casual wear uniform so that you just know, today I get up, this is what I put on, I don't have to worry about it. Create yourself a document filing system so that you know where you have put your files. When you need that image, it's right at hand straight away. But this is not an excuse to procrastinate. Okay, it's not an excuse for you to open your wardrobe now and spend an hour clearing out your clothes. But do take the time, build it into your schedule to do this, but don't use it as a tool for procrastination. Okay, so think about it for me 1 second. What simple task do you think that you could organize that would stop you from repeating it and wasting that time? Catherine, you've got your hand up. What would you?
Well, we had this question, didn't we, on the Facebook group last week? And I said, I'm dreadful. I have bits of post-it notes. I have lists. I have my database. I have Excel sheets. And I record everything, but everything's somewhere different and too much of it's in my head. So after everyone's really helpful suggestions, I actually had a really strong word with myself at the weekend. And I've started using the software that I already pay for every month. And I've set myself some reminders because it links with my Outlook. So yeah, I've not done a great job. I've set myself a 5-hour reminder this afternoon for a really quick task because I need to get used to using it. I've messed up a bit, but just, yeah, being more firm with myself, really.
Invest in that time this afternoon as well. You will find that although you've invested that time and you've had to take that time, ultimately it will pay off.
Yeah, because I'm feeling really overwhelmed. I have so much going on, really good stuff, but I can't keep up with it, and then I can't focus because I'm trying to remember everything.
And the good thing about the Zeigarnik effect, Catherine, is that they actually believe that once you write it down, it starts the close of the loop.
Yeah.
So even just the act of writing it down means you've started, and so your brain can then put that to one side and allow you to work on other things. So if you are feeling that overwhelmed, like you say, the real big thing is get it down on paper, because at least then your brain feels like you're acting upon it.
Yeah.
So I'll drop a really good video about the Zeigarnik effect in the Facebook group later for people to have a look at. That's brilliant, Catherine. Well done.
Thank you.
So that leads on really well from what Catherine was just saying. So creating systems. Now, this might seem a little bit extreme, particularly if you're looking at organisation for your home, but having worked in education for a very long time and having worked with lots of little people and then ultimately with lots of teachers, creating systems is so important. If you have a task that you repeat more than just a couple of times, you can create a system for it. Okay, so draw out the task as you do it. This will help you to be able to see the inefficiencies in it. It might help you to see where you're doubling up on things. It can also help you to see who could take this task on for you. Do you really need to be doing this, or can someone else do it for you? One simple example is when I used to work with young preschool children, we used to do all the washing up on a Friday when they had toast. It was ridiculous. It would take a member of staff an hour of learning time to do that task. So instead, we created a system for the children. We drew out pictures and we systematized what they needed to do, and we taught them to do it. And within 2 sessions, that freed up that member of staff straight away. So just thinking about that system meant that we were able to remove entirely and just allow them to do it themselves. So really do think about where you can do that and where you can hand off to someone else. It might even be getting your teenager to do the washing up, you know, or getting your partner to actually load the dishwasher effectively. Even if you have to draw them a diagram, it will be something you don't have to go back and readjust that dishwasher. It's a few moments of time that you don't need to take. Okay. And also, there might be, if it's a tech solution that you can use in your business. So this is very much where Mark would come in as well. So you can be tech wise. Okay, we use a lot of tech at Zebra Admin. And there's so many systems out there. And as I've mentioned many times, I'm a bit of a Trello geek. I was introduced to Trello by my teenage son. And it basically started off for me as a to-do list. So we shared a to-do list so that we knew what each other needed to do. So it took away that time of having to tell each other the things and forgetting that we hadn't told each other things. So we used this list as organizational software. So originally used it to plan our personal life. And then when I was started to set up the business, I put my business plan on there. So then I was able to share that with the other people that work within the business with me. And they're able to share their ideas with me as well. I use it for my daily schedule. I use it for checklists. I use a board for every client that I have so that they can both share in the tasks I'm taking on as well. And as I said before, Zebra Admin, we share that internally. So Trello works really well for us, but it's not the only solution out there. There's planning tools such as Asana and Monday.com, time trackers such as Toggle, Clockify and Desktime, website builders such as Wix and WordPress, email marketing such as MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, CRMs such as HubSpot and Fusionsoft, social media schedules, appointment booking software, cloud-based drives, meeting booking, meeting software, and video creation and graphic software that will all save you time. And if you put a system around it as well, it will save you twice as much time. Okay. So question, can you think about one task that you repeat on a regular basis? Now, this doesn't have to be a business task. It can be something that you do in your home life, a personal task that you think you could systematize or be tech-wise about. Anyone waving at me?
Matt says rewriting my to-do list.
Rewriting your to-do list, that's something. So is that something that you feel, did you want to unmute Matt for a second? Yep. Is that something that you feel you can systematize?
Yeah, I did have it virtually on a Word document before, but I wasn't doing things. So I've gone back to a paper-based format. So I need something that's going to actually make me do things on there. So I don't know how to do that. I probably should look into stuff.
So are you thinking like a tech solution for that?
Yep, something that will make me do it. It'll flash at me or something until I do something. Maybe is what I need.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, so Trello is really good in that you can move things around, and I love the flexibility of Trello. So how I have my Trello set out is my personal daily one is I have it set out in days, the boards, the cards, and then I put tasks within it. So I can move them around. So I go in every morning and I know I've got these tasks to do. If I get to the end of the day and I didn't get one task done, then I can move that and put that in another day. Or I can move other things if I've got time. So that's a really good system as well. So it might be worth looking cool. Into that. And yeah, well, notifications and bits as well. Fabulous. Okay. So another and probably one of the most important things for starting your tasks is mindset. So mindset is about the energy that you bring to the things that you're doing. This is dependent upon your location, the time of day or week or month it is, and the circumstances that you're in at the moment. And wouldn't we all love to be in the circumstance of this guy in this photo here? So you need to think about, are you in the right place for the task you're doing? Is it the right time of day for the task you're doing? And do you have the right energy at that point in time? Do you have everything you need? Because if you start a task and you do not have everything you need, it will take you longer and you will procrastinate on it. Another thing you can do is consider calling your to-do list a must-do list. Okay. And rather than filling it with lots of things, take one big rock and two smaller pebbles to complete. Maybe put them on post-it notes. Post-it notes are a really good way of creating a task and then throwing it away. Now, being eco, you might not want to actually physically use post-it notes, but you can use your stickies on your computer system, or again, with something like Trello, you can physically remove them and you can see your list going down. So that helps your brain to see those loops being closed. One good idea is to monitor your energy levels. So in the link that I'll pop in afterwards, I suggest that you do a 14-day energy diary, basically looking at the tasks that you complete, how you felt about them throughout the day, and monitoring those days and those times where you work really well and really productively, and those times where you don't work so well or so productively, so that over those couple of weeks, you can find yourself spots where you can batch your tasks to be more effective. So for example, if you get up in the morning and you're a slow mover and you really don't want to do a lot in the morning, then you don't want to set yourself a load of data tasks. You want to set your data tasks later in the evening. I mean, I know I work better later in the day. So you want to set your tasks late afternoon or early evening and work around how your energy levels are. And we've talked about this lots when we've been in the Facebook group, avoiding those time guzzlers. These are the things that just eat up your time and you don't even realize they do it. So again, maybe set yourself a boundary on these things. Like your email or your social media. And I know we're all using social media for business, but set yourself a time block, batch it in. Say that you're going to have an hour on social media in the morning, an hour in the afternoon, and then switch off your notifications. And it's really tough to do at first, but you'll be able to fit your time guzzlers in where your mindset and your energy is low, and use your batch tasks where your energy is high. So really do have a look at that. And one big thing is you can't pour from an empty cup. And so you need to make sure that you do things for yourself. And that's probably one of the biggest takeaways. If you are completely burnt out, you will not do anything effectively. So I'm going to ask you to commit now, because if you commit it to paper, or you commit it to your computer screen, or you commit it to a sticky note, to find 2 things that you will commit to do for yourself this week. Okay, so I'm going to give you 1 minute to write that down, and it has to be written down because the Zeigarnik effect says if you do not write it down, if you do not get it out of your brain, you will not do it. You will not close that loop. So make sure that you open the loop now so that you can close it. And if you can pop that in the chat, that would be great. If you're happy to pop that in the chat, that would be great. But if not, you don't have to, so long as you've committed it down somewhere. All good? Thumbs up, let me know you're all good. You've all got something. Some of us finding it a bit tricky to be brave enough to find things to commit to do ourselves. Yeah. It's tough, isn't it? When you're so bogged down in business, it's tough to say, I'm going to take the time to do that for myself. So going back to the Zeigarnik effect, it's proven that you are more likely to complete a task if you've started it, and that even if you write it down. So Matt, like you say, get those things written down on a to-do list. And my biggest takeaway is it doesn't have to be perfect. Some things you might want to do and they need to be perfect for your customers, but not everything has to be perfect. Sometimes good enough is enough. And do it. Just get started. So off you go, do it, and do it now. I'm going to drop the link to the document that contains all of the information from these things that I've discussed today so that you can download it. And it would be great to see some of you put your productivity bingos into the Facebook page as you do them. And I do thank you because I know your time is precious. So I hope that at least one of these things that we've talked about today, you can take away and move forward with. Thank you. Fab. So thank you, everyone.
Brilliant, Sam. That was really, really useful. Thank you.
Really good.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
Sorry.
Are there any questions?
Does this mean you're going to get more work out of me?
Yes. I want you at least to do two things faster than you normally do them.
I've got all my notes, and all my lists.
No, they're all written down now, so I expect those loops closed.
It's a shame Tanya's left. I could see a tribunal case coming up.
You haven't heard her teacher's voice. I wouldn't dare. That was really great.
Anyone else? Anything that you think I want to do that, but I don't know where to get started?
I've sort of taken on board a lot of what you've put in this presentation, because a lot of you know I did burn out at the end of last year, and I wasn't looking after myself, and I did stop and refocus for this year. And my working day before used to be I'd sit myself in front of the computer at 8:30, 9, and I'd force myself to sit there. I'm not a morning person, but I'd force myself to sit there, and I'd procrastinate and delay, and then I'd be still sat there 6, 7 o'clock at night, and I wouldn't feel like I'd got anything done.
Yeah.
And now I get up, have my breakfast, I'll do my social media post first thing, and then I go for a dog walk, and I start work at 10:30, 11.
Yeah.
And in my mind I feel really guilty, because I'm like, oh no, your working day starts at 9, but no, I start at 11 and I work solid